It's Community Thursday. It's 8 o'clock. You know where to find us. Right here. What is up, chat? Welcome. We have an exciting agenda for you this evening. If you missed it, it feels like a lot longer than a week ago, but we're buying a golf course. Pretty fun stuff. Can't believe it's only been a week since that announcement came out, but we will have some more updates, some feedback from the visits, and more info about LinksDAO and the experience here. Yeah, not much, cowboy. Just buying a golf course. Um, well, welcome everybody. I do want to highlight a important fact that's going on right now is the Links.golf referral contest. That giveaway contest is live. So if you go to links.golf, you enter your email address, it gives you a referral code that you can send to your friends, family, golf buddies who may not be big into crypto, but still are interested in golf and getting the best golf value membership on the planet, which Links is. So you can go to links.golf, generate that code, send them an invite, and they will be put at the front, the very front of the list to get access to that product when it launches in April. So head over there, keep your eye on that. Remember to do that and then share it on your socials. Know we have a lot of info and questions about the April launch. We will take questions on that at the end. If you want to raise your hand now, leave it up. We will get to those questions at the end of the chat. If you want to talk about that new membership tier or have any other questions or conversations there. Do want to highlight we have a lot of really cool stuff coming with PGA 2K 2023. In the gaming channel, there's an active tournament right now. If you go on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and search Link Society, you can join the ongoing tournament for the match play. We're going to be doing the tournament in Augusta, Georgia, that's coming up. We do tournaments every weekend. We have some fun prizes, and it's a cool way to utilize your champions as well. And we have potentially some stuff come up with Spay, but I'm not going to leak any access or leak any alpha there with regards to that. So wanted to touch on another thing. If you saw members' announcements today, there is a form. Go fill it out. This is very, very important. This is the core mission. We're buying a golf course, and we want the community, the DAO, to have a ton of input and utilize the creativity. If you were here at the beginning, we opened up a Google Doc that everyone just kind of jumped in. And I'm going to drop that in chat later so we can look back on that. We opened a Google Doc up to the entire community in December of 2021, and everyone just jumped in and started dropping their ideas for what the modern reimagined golf and leisure club should look like. We want to highlight and engage that creativity to build a really incredible and unique experience at SPAY to start. And that starts with, coming up with these course committees and identifying who wants to work on, the business of creating a, community governed, community led golf course. So just to highlight a couple of things, there's like 3 types or categories of ideas here. One would be like anything that isn't a direct business decision, doesn't require contracts, etc. That stuff is fully DAO governance enabled. So this is the rules, the culture, the vibes, the hospitality, the amenities, clubhouse, all of that is wide open. Let's go crazy there with ideas and what we can actually execute. Type number 2 would be like improvements, ideas, development that requires funding. So these committees will develop proposals, and we can do funding requests. We can vote on them, debate on the concepts and ideas, and then we can execute from that. And then the third type, these are going to be more of the high-level business advisories, partnerships, capitally intensive operations, things that work with the course designers, et cetera. These are obviously open to discussion and input from the committees and the community, but there are limitations there, obviously, due to regulatory, logistical factors, things like that. So we want to have those conversations, but there will be, some limits on what can be accomplished there. Additionally, you know, we do a lot more than just the golf course, and we have been for the past 15 months. If you are looking to get more involved with the DAO, want to work on things like user-generated content, philanthropy, growing the game, ways that we as LinksDAO can have an impact on the world of golf at large, hop into that DAO General channel and let's have some conversations. Open to any ideas, doesn't matter how crazy. Let's discuss it and work on some cool stuff. That's enough from me on uh, the intro there. But I'd love to kick it over to Bez, who had a whirlwind trip across the pond, to tell us a little bit about his visit to Spey Bay.
Thanks, Coop. I am exhausted. I'm gonna. I think I'm just gonna give a quick rundown on what the trip was like, sort of what the itinerary was, what we learned, what we're excited about, and then maybe open it up to some questions if that works. And maybe I don't know if you or Senor have things you want to make sure I hit on. If I don't touch on them, just you know nudge me, and I'll make sure I address it. But sort of the quick overview. Jim and I basically wrote out the next day after we had the call last week announcing that our bid was accepted and that we are in this exclusivity period with the seller. We hopped on a flight and we flew from New York to Amsterdam, and then from Amsterdam to Inverness, and our clubs made it and our bags made it, which was great. And we got in a rental car and drove straight from Inverness at around 1:30, 2 o'clock. Drove straight to Spey Bay, which is about an hour and a half drive, and met Colin, who's the current owner, and his daughter Rebecca, who kind of helps run operations for Colin's business, which extends well beyond the golf course, which is kind of like a side hustle and hobby for him. And spent about 4 hours on site that day, touring the golf course, driving around, basically got in Colin's car and drove all over the course. Probably got out and stopped and walked around different greens and tees about probably 8 or 9 times, having him answer questions, explain things to us, talk about what changes had been made to the course historically, how they were thinking about what changes that could lend it, things that could lend themselves to changes going forward. And then we went back to the club. By the way, we brought our clubs. We were dressed for golf. We didn't hit a single golf ball that day. So that was, we thought we were going to have like a little quick, hour conversation and then go play a few holes. Colin had other ideas, which turned out to be honestly like the best possible, scenario for us. And so we spent, like I said, a few hours driving around, and then we had dinner with Colin and his wife and Rebecca and her husband in the clubhouse, which was awesome. There had been an outing actually that day, so it was packed. I think they had probably 100 people play that day. By the way, it was like 40 degrees was the high. And so we, got to see sort of the club in full action in terms of, members and locals that had turned up to play in this event. They were giving out trophies. It was like, there was a fireplace in the clubhouse that was going. We had a drunken Scotsman come by to introduce himself to us, who Colin had never met before. It was great. We got the full Spey experience, and I think we walked away feeling like, incredibly excited about the opportunity, and Colin and Rebecca were sort of equally as excited about us. We learned some pretty interesting things actually during this dinner that we didn't really know about the process until then, which was this was way more competitive than we had anticipated, like a lot more competitive than we had anticipated. They probably had close to 20 bids. They thought the process was going to go for months, well into the spring and summer. And so the interest that they got was shocking to them and the broker that they had. And that was really why they ended up sort of calling a final date for best and final bids. They said that they had people calling the day of the day bids were due, asking for more time, asking to come to the site because there were that many people that hadn't been able to get to the course yet. We found out that there were 3 bids that were basically identical in price. So 2 others besides ours. And one of the things that Colin cited as the reason why they selected us over others was really the membership and the DAO and the model of this club. That was really the difference maker when it came to them picking us over a couple other groups. They basically said the offers were virtually identical in terms of price. Who knows, maybe that's within 25 or 50 grand or maybe even less. But ultimately, like, price wasn't the single decision maker for them. It came down to links, right? It came down to all the people that are on this call and that are in this Discord every day and that are engaging on Instagram and were with us in Austin, a year ago. So it's a testament to this community that that we're going to be owners of this golf course. So that was one thing that Colin sort of opened up and shared with us that dinner, and want to make sure that that got relayed to everyone here. So everyone should feel incredibly excited that you are the very reason why we're going to end up owning this course in the next few weeks or so. So that was night 1, or really day 1. We left, and then we went back to our hotel, or bed and breakfast, really, across from a course called Murray, which is an old Tom Morris course, about 25 minutes from Spey. There's 36 holes there. 18 are built by old Tom Morris in like the late 1800s, and then they have another 18-hole course that was called their new course. And we just walked into the Murray clubhouse, and we were immediately greeted by the guy who actually is one of the owners of our bed and breakfast, who bought us drinks and talked to us for the next 3 hours all about the history of the area and how excited he was about new ownership going into Spey and how he felt like the site really lent itself to really significant upgrades and the opportunity to build something pretty special there. And so got to pick his brain on the course and the property and the area and all the other local courses that are around there, and how he felt like what we could do differently compared to everybody else. And so that was night 1. And we were up the next day at about 6:15 to go play Spey at 7 with Barry, the greenskeeper at Spey. And so we spent 4 hours with Barry, peppering him with questions on basically every single hole, and getting his feedback, his insight, really trying to understand what he thought could be done to improve the conditioning, the routing, just the overall experience of the course. And that was, those 8 hours at Spey between the tour with Colin and Rebecca and dinner and the 4 hours playing the course with Barry, like, were insanely valuable. It confirmed a lot of what we had felt about the property, and really, and then some. And so that was that was the sort of the extent of our time sort of on site. We went to another course that afternoon, which was a pretty interesting experience to compare another course to Spey, both in terms of conditioning and routing, and honestly just like the overall site in terms of proximity to the water. And then I think that night, Jim flew out of Aberdeen. I drove all the way back to Inverness, so I had a nice hour 45-minute drive through the Scottish countryside in pitch dark, which was great. And the next morning I got up and I met with Chris Haspel, who is a sort of really well-known agronomist and turf consultant over there, we were introduced to Chris by Bill Core. Chris has worked with Corin Crenshaw and Gil Hance and Tom Doak. He's currently working with Tom over on the second course that's being built at Castle Stewart as part of the new Cabot property over there. So I met with Chris right around the corner from the course, and he just provided a wealth of intel in an hour-long conversation around Spey itself, which he's very familiar with and had been on property within the last month. What we can do in terms of improving maintenance, how much we should be spending, the sequencing of maintenance versus course improvements, the types of architects that lend themselves well to the property, which architects we should choose, in terms not necessarily by name, but in terms of style, architects that have shapers and builders in-house versus architects who outsource shaping and building to third-party construction groups, and the pros and cons of both. I was just basically writing notes down for an hour straight while he spilled all this to me, and then I went to the airport, and that was literally two exactly 48 hours on the ground from landing at Inverness to flying out of Inverness on Monday. And I'll pause there, so I'll stop rambling. But that was the itinerary and the extent of our trip, and honestly I think I mentioned this in the Discord, but I think it blew away our expectations in terms of what we were trying to get out of this visit. When we went there, we had a handful of things lined up, but we got way more time with Barry than we were expecting. We got way more time with Colin and Rebecca than we had anticipated, and even the meeting with Chris, we had scheduled, but wasn't necessarily expecting him to either be as helpful or spend that much time with us. So that was 48 hours in Scotland.
That's incredible. First off, thanks for making the trip.
I'm happy to hop on a plane anytime and go back there.
I can't wait to mimic that a few times this year. But that clip of soundbite of you talking about sitting down and finding out that the community was kind of the turning point, or the main factor that was considered that kind of won us the bid. That's amazing. I can't wait to get that chopped up and tweeted out. I think that's just so incredible. And shout out to this whole community here for everything y'all do to keep this ball rolling forward. Really crazy. My biggest question was, what was the travel experience like? Right, you're in the New York area. How easy was it to get over there? And you said you'd do it again, right? So that's an obvious plus there. But I'd love to hear a little bit about that for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty simple, and honestly very, very smooth. The only issue that I think we had was the layover in Amsterdam was probably a little bit longer than we would have liked, but I think that's probably just a function of flying through Inverness versus flying through Aberdeen. And the reason we chose to fly through Inverness was because Chris Bruce had flown through Aberdeen on the way over, and we wanted to just check out the other likely route.
Okay.
But like the Inverness airport is more like a bus station than an airport. Like, it is so small and so easy to get in and out of. Customs was like, we didn't have to go through customs at all in Amsterdam when we changed planes. Our flight from Amsterdam to Inverness was actually in the exact same terminal, so it was literally like a 1-minute walk from the gate we got out of to the gate we were departing from. And then customs at Inverness was super straightforward. It was incredibly quick and easy to get in, and then getting out, like flying out of Inverness, I had a 45-minute delay to my flight in Amsterdam, so it was a little, with that delay, it was a little tight. Don't get me wrong, I literally ran through the Amsterdam airport at as fast as I possibly could. Fortunately, I had checked both of my bags, so I wasn't trying to like drag something behind me. But I did have a tight connection on the way home, uh, and my bag somehow also made it, fortunately. But that was just a function of a weird delay getting out of there. But and then on the ground, super easy to get around. Um, as long as you're comfortable driving on the other side of the road and having a steering wheel on the other side of the car. Um, Google Maps works perfectly fine. It's very easy to get around. The driving is honestly really scenic. So even when there was a slightly longer drive, when we went from Spey over to Aberdeen, like you're driving along the Scottish coast or through the Scottish Highlands, like it's kind of tough to beat. So yeah,
Very cool.
it's it's internet, and actually the flight over there is pretty short in the grand scheme of things. It was like 6.5 hours to Amsterdam because you have the sort of this of a tailwind. Then the flight back was about an hour longer. But you got Wi-Fi, you got TV, just crank on work, and 7 hours flies by.
That's right. And then another big question I have is, so we're buying a golf course right now, but when can we say past tense? Do we have any indication yet of
Still on
when?
track. Still on
Okay,
track for first week of April or so.
awesome. Coming up. Hey, Eth.
Yo, hey guys. Bez, great job, man. Honestly, this is one of the best podiums. It probably the best. Honestly, I just have goosebumps, and just kind of mirroring, Coop's sentiment about the community just being the nail in the coffin that sold it to the sellers. Just honestly, just gives me a lot of pride in this community. Honestly, so there's that. I have a question though, kind of regarding the committees, in the survey that we're kind of rolling out. When will we kind of get some of that feedback about how we want to maybe start approaching either changes to the course or renovations so that we can maybe pull in some of those interests so that we can have community members maybe focus on some of those high priorities, in the short term that'll benefit the course the most? You're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. As it relates to the course changes, we're not going to make any changes to the course probably for several months. That's a function of a couple things. One is we don't want to disrupt the upcoming, playing season, spring through summer. We don't want to cause any disruptions to existing members. We don't want to cause unnecessary disruptions for all of y'all who are going to go over there and hopefully play. What we are going to do is basically institute a proper maintenance plan for the course. Maintenance, I've been calling sort of beauty standards of Scottish golf courses are very different than the beauty standards of U.S. parkland golf courses, and so the amount of maintenance from a pure dollar perspective that's spent by even some of the most highly ranked courses in the country pales in comparison to what gets spent on courses over here. And so there's an opportunity for us to significantly elevate turf conditions and maintenance practices and just playability in the near term without spending all that much money and without altering the course all that much. The other thing that is taken into consideration is that there's a fair amount of gorse on the property right now, more than we'd like. And if we do want to change design or routing, we are going to need to remove a good amount of it. And you can't remove it. You can't remove gorse between, or you can kind of only remove gorse between like end of August, September through March or so. And that's because there's a fair amount of like birds nesting in the gorse and you can't disrupt them. And so that actually kind of works to our advantage. So we literally can't make some of the changes that we might want to make in the near term. And so it's kind of forced us to, be patient, institute the maintenance practices that we want, and spend a good amount of the next, month or so really allowing some of these other architects that we are talking to that have not been on the property yet to potentially fly over there, check out the course, and share their thoughts with us. We've received 3 different proposals so far from architects at this point, sort of formal proposals outlining timeline, different phases and costs associated with them. And we're honestly flattered at the amount of interest that we've been receiving. And there's probably a couple more people that might end up wanting to take a close look at it. So I'd say that's the likely timeline at this point, barring any sort of unforeseen, weather and weather delays and other sort of maintenance challenges that we're not thinking about so far.
Great, thanks, man.
Hey Bez, you mentioned the other day it was the best chicken fingers you ever had in your entire life around the course. But I love chicken fingers, but I'll ask more of a meta question just about what was the food experience over there for people coming in, traveling? Anything you can give us about the local food that y'all ate that would be exciting?
So those chicken fingers were not at Spey, but I will be making sure that item gets added to the Spey menu. Jim had fish and chips at Spey. He said they were amazing. And it was definitely a very popular choice among people that were eating there. So, kind of a standard Scottish UK fare. So good to know that they can knock out a good fish and chips. It was actually Mother's Day over there on Sunday. It was, I don't know if it's European Mother's Day or UK Mother's Day. But we played at a course in the afternoon where we had lunch, and then we played, and we also had dinner. And so it was kind of it was Jim and I, having a nice Mother's Day meal together in this clubhouse. And I had a lovely prime rib, carved prime rib and Yorkshire pudding and potatoes as part of their Mother's Day buffet, which was delicious. And then obviously we're, in the heart of, Speyside whiskey distillery land. And so we definitely partook at the clubs that we were at. And then actually at the B&B we stayed at, they were definitely plying us with whiskey, both evenings. Well, I was there 2 evenings. Jim was there just one. And, very, very generously sharing their, Speyside whiskey supply with us. So, yeah, honestly, I think UK food gets a bad rap kind of unnecessarily. So we only had a couple meals there, but I thought the food that I had was really good.
It's fantastic. The chat's we're homesick about the British food, and Yorkshire pudding's so great. That's awesome. I do want to change gears a little bit. Do you have any updates or content for us about the progress on US courses? I know that's still high in many people's minds, and I want to touch on that here in this call as well. Here's a reminder as well: if anybody has any questions, you can start raising your hands. We'll get to the Q&A here at the end in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, still equally as aggressively pursuing a US acquisition. Chris, Jim, and I have a call every Wednesday where we are reviewing what's in the pipeline, going over diligence items. And so yesterday's call was pretty evenly split between Spey progress and process, as well as another course that we're taking a very hard look at in the US. I'm figuring out next steps on moving that sort of across the, through the diligence funnel, if you will. And then we've got notes out to, like I said, we've got, I think, 20 others that we're kind of kicking the tires on, maybe a little bit less seriously than this one that we're sort of very actively talking to the owner about. And then there's, I think, notes out to a few more to sort of add to the top of the funnel. So that's kind of the latest on the US side. So there's one that we're very, very, interested in. Just a matter of if it, stars align in terms of timing and price and structure. And then obviously, can we make changes to it in the ways that we think we need to elevate it to feel, as special as we think Spay is going to feel.
Very cool. I know we don't have any specifics announced yet, but a question just came in. We're going out there to play this summer, right? Like we can confirm that late spring, early summer, we'll be out there playing rounds as a community.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the timing is, we'd like to, we're actually, that's why Jim and I were talking to Barry about this, and we're like, hey, like, just tell us what you guys need now in terms of maintenance supplies, and we'll just start funding it now, and we'll tack it on to the acquisition price. Just basically, it's like add it to our bill, so you can start making the changes that we want now, and not feel like you're being held back at all. So, we're extremely excited about the current progress, and hopefully feel like, mid to late June is a timeline that we can work against for some sort of formal event.
Awesome. Love that. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all of our local Scottish and UK members who have been hitting me up about having relationships in the golf industry in Scotland and the UK, and wanting to refer us to people. I love that energy. It's fantastic. Definitely drop a message in the Spay Bay channel or in the Clubhouse channel. Tag Bez or myself. We'll get you connected with the team for those connections, and we really appreciate that outreach.
Oh yeah, the only other thing I would add is, this, this acquisition, this new or pending acquisition, to be, totally accurate, and this news is definitely resonating with a lot of people around Spay. Cooper, you got an email that I thought was just like, in some ways, crazy to me. In other ways, kind of validated a lot of what we had been thinking about, which is like, this is gonna feel like a very different course and a very different opportunity for the right general manager, for the right greenskeeper, for the right director of golf, for the right teaching pro, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because of who owns it and sort of the entrepreneurial sort of elements here. And we got an inbound email from a head greenskeeper at an old Tom Morris course that is, fairly notable and has received a decent amount of attention over the last handful of years, who is interested in potentially working at Spay. And that to me is a testament to, the sort of story and narrative here, and this group, and this group, and this company becoming the potential, hopefully soon to be owners of this property. And so I feel really good that we're going to have some of the most talented people in the industry, attracted to work with us and support this mission. Not just at Spay, obviously, and other courses going forward, but in the near term, with this most, with the sort of the likely timeline here, I think we're going to have something pretty special on our hands.
Really exciting stuff there. That's so great to hear. Yeah. Again, raise your hand if you want to pop up and ask any questions, but I will touch off and say that we also have some more partnership announcements queued coming up pretty soon. So keep your announcements turned on, notifications turned on for Discord. The best place to stay up to date on the newest benefits is going to be in members announcements. So make sure you verify your wallet if you are a holder in the wallet verification channel. Stay tuned for more on that as well. Got a couple minutes if anybody wants to ask any questions. If not, we can wrap it up and take it to the chats. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to get over there and play with all of you. Gonna be very, very fun. Thanks, Bez and Jim, if you listen to this later, for the trip over there. sounds like it was a great time and a lot of good progress.
Absolutely. Pumped to keep chatting with everybody.
Sweet. Well, have a great night, guys. We'll be back here next week for Quiz House at 7:30 and more updates at 8. Have a great evening.